people should make contact. I mean, they've given me application forms to say, look, I've got an application form for housing. I don't know how to fill the form out because I'm always trying. But they need help, they need guidance, and they're not getting it. And everyone in Mitcham, possibly the council, is saying it's always been a problem. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad.
Street drinking.
The thing is, just have a complete swallow. They don't even stop. The way to do it is just go down. Just not having people do it together. Someone goes in there. It's so pointless to go to the authorities. They don't care all the time. The thing is, what they say, I haven't got time.
But that's why the councillors are there. I'm not going to let go.
But that doesn't happen if we need to go down, everybody together, and say that this is what's happening there. But the people who are drinking got to the point where they just had enough of both. So to build salon and saw a snowflake getting with it, they're out of touch. So you need to go in, people like the Salvation Army, they're great. But at the end of the day, we can't keep going down.
No, it's got to be, otherwise it's a perpetuating, circle. I understand that, but
unfortunately, it comes from the top.
But in Wimbledon, it wouldn't happen. That's my problem.
Middle class area.
I'm not happy. I'm not going to accept that in Wimbledon they've solved the problem.
Middle class area.
It doesn't matter. We're in the same council.
No, I understand.
End of story.
I haven't got any.
We're in the same council.
I don't go along with all this class system. But
why do staff licences are allowed to sell alcohol? Others aren't.
I think
it's just not totally wrong because the licensing.
Because they're seen as bottom feeders and it's just you get on with it. It's a sad story. It's true.
It's true. Why are the 4 betting shops in Mitcham town centre and half the population don't have any money?
Why do you think? It encourages it.
And then when they don't have money, they go and do other things.
They're just bottom feeders. Yeah. If it's not that, it's just sign up to the army and kill yourself. Yeah, it's as simple as that. It's never strong.
I got to know them all. They wave at me. They look at me coming to orders. I've got part-time work now. Some of them say, you're rubbish.
But just 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks. But you did say
Silent houses. Creating an infestation in the middle of Mitcham town centre around all food shops.
And also it's expensive.
They just tell them reservation down the middle of the road. Spend thousands of pounds trying to put a reservation down the middle by the car park. And the rats are put us in the way because it's all about and this colony of rats, which I've counted to 20, is within about 25 inches. It's an absolute disgrace. And why are the councillors going to run around and seeing because they're not. And they're not even getting back. But people are paid to do that, they're not doing it. So the council is just turning them around. Mitcham's got a lot more
Alright, good evening everyone. My name is Councillor Aidan Mundy and I'm the chair of the Mitcham Community Forum. Very pleased to be and very happy that it's in my home ward of Lodge Hill. So we've got Chris here, who many of you may already know is the brains of the operation, keep us to time, and has done a great job pulling us all together in terms of this event. So very grateful for him, but also grateful for you to come this evening, and also some of our great organisations as well, who are here to support, and I'll go into that in a second. What we'll do is we'll kick off with obviously the open forum. I think we've got Nick from Mitcham Town Centre who will be speaking in that item. We give a council update from Councillor Billy Christie. We'll have a London Assembly update from Leonie Cooper. And then we'll have a climate action update from Amy from Merton Council. And then that will take us up to about 8 o'clock. And what we'll do then is I'll ask some of our great organisations to come to help. So Richard from Ways to Work, Suzanne from Citizens Advice, Naomi from the side, Michael from Merton Credit Union, Martel, and his colleague from the Learning Consortium to come up here and just briefly explain what they're here to offer and what they can do, because there's obviously more marketplace here, but also we have food, we have chicken curry, we have many other things as well, and tea and coffee, so by all means you can enjoy that. As well, so please do stay for that at that time. So a bit recap, we won't have any fires today, and if there is any fire alarm, then the exit is just there. And as I said, plan to this part of the agenda will be finished at around 8:50. So what I first want to do before moving on to the open forum is ask our councillors just to stand up, so that many of you are aware of who they are, just in case. So can I start off with Billy?
Hi, Councillor Billy Christie.
Evening everyone, my name is Osama Kawasa and I represent Cricket Green. So if you want to talk to me about any matters concerning Cricket Green, I'm your guy.
Brenda.
Good evening, everyone. I do know some of you. I am Brenda Fraser, and I'm the councillor, one of the councillors in Lodge.
Joan.
Hi, good evening everyone. My name is Joan Henry and I'm one of the councillors in Carousel. Thank you. And also the mayor.
And I'm Martin Wilson, one of the councillors in Palacio.
Thank you very much. So without further ado, can I ask Nick to speak his open forum item, please?
Oh, okay. I'm here from Mitcham. I live in Mitcham Town Centre, and there's a few issues.
Oh, sorry, Nick, would you mind standing on?
Oh, sorry, yeah, sure.
Yeah, no problem.
I live in Mitcham Town Centre, and there's a few problems in Mitcham Town Centre which I want to address. We've got some here from Cricket Green, but this is particularly in Mitcham Town Centre. The first major issue that I need to be addressed is an environmental health issue. We've got a colony of hamster-sized rats in the main car park of Mitcham Town Centre. I've counted at least 20 the other day. They are creating an infestation by the major car park, by the mosque. I can't understand why somebody from Environmental Health at Merton Council has not been down to look at the problem or had a look at it, because it's been there for some considerable time. I heard about it the other day and I went to have a look. It's an absolute disgrace. There are food shops around the area, there's supermarkets, and these giant rats are running around the car park. That car park is very shut until the rats are dealt with. Held by flying all around it, and another with understand is that the £1,000 improvement around the road area celebrate the oldest in the world spend. It's a quick signal from where these rats around, where bus drivers actually have they've got a portico, and the bus drivers have their brakes there. We need some environment to make it, because little town. My concern is that why has it done that to happen? Basically, if it was Wimbledon, it would have been sorted out in my home. It would have been sorted out very quickly. But because of Mitcham, for some reason, so that's that logged quickly. Because it's environmental. And that's the first. We've also issue with in the town centre. And sometime that's been gone past time of work, managed to time it. I'm told it's for years. to know street drink. I work in and they're not getting help. But we do need either council or homeless people who are here tonight. Been around town to go Friday. There's a but we really do need abandoned. Feel abandoned. Too much. Watch them after finishing off wine in the morning. Now I don't think Mitcham to accept because it's a problem that and it can it needs to they also create a lot of information that not as bad as they were because they see coming sometimes and that rats. Well, we need to get all the businesses involved.
To have street level.
Yeah.
Come from out.
Well, not
It's to do it again. You can't go out. There's a lot of people attached. That's right. Look, come on. In the area every day, street going down. Not one do it that the area because
yeah.
not people come blah blah let people
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, I was just man
because I went to the meeting. This is great big and developers said to revive the town centre. And get a trolley to take. How are you going to? I think quite a long time ago, it needs one the shops. Centre shops. Shops that sell the beer. Being and council people like you. Said people doing the best. Another quick example. An issue. Kitchens, which is a food. They drop with peacock. You've got a big problem. Staff. When it was, it's a town. Right. Solved and then
usually run.
sorry. Yeah. Oh no.
Days.
I think, for example, I think that was a former gas.
Yes.
Quite frankly, it's there. I understand your concern. I should say concern of and then obviously you get what I strategic level about manager sort of that type of thing.
I know in Wimbledon, a lot of the they've all been kind of reform, and all the managers of each other. Every in a collective.
Valid point, huh?
If the council,
It's in
so why? But then if they can, we have.
I think let me take capture that and let's give.
And I know for a fact that going back to the street because I know that license is spelled, which the high tech beer are giving it away, and then just encourage you.
Everyone is drinking some but they drink and they set fire. It's just some people need someone to lean on. Not everyone's like big and powerful. That's the truth of it. I lived in Manchester for a few years and it's nowhere near out there.
But that's just a general thing.
Encourages it.
Okay. Further, and we've got Councillor Christie to give an update from the council. Cool. Philip, can you try and get a please for the camera?
Thank you, Aidan, and thank you everybody for coming tonight and taking part in this meeting. I'm here, my name is Councillor Billy Christie. I'm the, as a member for St Corpus in New be here as
No.
that is Nick, you talked about in your points just now about the need to collaboratively, residents, councillors, organisations, everyone that lives here and works here needs to be prepared to take a stake in the borough, reinstall that pride and do what we can to make Merton a place that we're all proud to live in. As I say, and as Ross has said, that's the #1 priority of the new administration. To achieve this, Ross has said that we're committed to investing in people, our residents, our places, our high streets, our town centres, and our services, the council services that we provide and you all pay for through your council tax. The first is the second is to build a sustainable future. The third is to capitalise on our fantastic sporting legacy and make Merton the borough of sport in London. So what does this mean? Civic pride. Nick, as I said, you've touched on a lot of the things that we want to address under this priority, but if I can just name a few other things that we want to focus on. We want people to feel proud to live and to work in Merton. But more than this, we want residents to take a stake in the community. We want to make it easier for people to volunteer in the borough, linking neighbours up to projects and organisations in their area, and rewarding communities for great local action when they take it. We've got so much to be proud of in the borough, and we want people to really love where they live and where they work. And this will include looking at how we support our high streets and our town centres, but it also means taking the difficult decisions to make sure we're keeping our streets clean and our borough clean. And who sort of, if you up with council, communications on social media or on Twitter, you might be aware that we're that at cabinet level expecting to take a decision next week around the street cleaning contract that we currently have.
I've been out myself.
Have you posed your questions to one of these?
One second, sorry. I've been out on the street the last 2 weeks and I've filled up 4 bin bags of rubbish that's on round the close and on the back greens now.
Yeah.
Big collections of beers, wine, or fox all round the.
So,
So I'll carry on.
I'm not because I the estate. But
Yeah, but I think so. I just try and get through the update that I've got.
I just wanted to pick up.
Your point is
that.
exactly right, sir.
And I've got people coming around saying you're going to praise me, you'll be rewarded. And I'm thinking, well, if you're religious, why don't
If you
do
give me a minute to answer your point, sir, we recognise that the street cleaning in the borough hasn't been good enough. And as I said, next week, Cabinet will be taking a decision about what we do to fix that. So, I can't preempt.
There's a fox
I don't think we're going to be introducing fox hunting, but more about what we're going to make. So that's the second one I mentioned, Ross has identified as a priority, is building a sustainable borough. So this means encouraging residents to use sustainable transport to make Merton the easiest place to hire or car, rent a bike, and make it easier for around us, for people to continue short journeys. We've got a job app and the practical solutions that people need to start changing behaviour. We need to tackle the where I imagine you remember my update on some of my work that's going as we all to address the climate emergency. And we, on top of that, want to be a champion for providing genuinely affordable homes in the borough. So, we want that across the borough. For the council, its part, we've of 400 genuine to be built on council-owned land. 2020, the next council. So that's our target we're committed to.
Last sorry. Can we hold?
Just to preempt, the council has homes on council-owned land. That's not something that's going on. New target, so that's something that we put in place to ensure that we are doing that. We see, and Councillor Mundy's is the chair of our planning committee, so he'll be funding this to see a shift in planning work. We get good quality, energy efficient developments right across the borough. The borough of sport, the third priority. This is about capitalising, as I said, on our fantastic sporting heritage to be recognised across London as the borough of sport. We want to work with our fantastic local clubs and facilities to offer additional opportunities to drive investment into grassroots sport and to promote healthier lifestyles for everyone who lives here. So those are the priorities. I I also just want to set out briefly what we've done to act on those in the first few months of this administration. On street cleanliness, as I said, we recognise that it's not been good enough. Straight away after the election, the leader and the cabinet member, Councillor Irons, met with the chief executive or the managing director of Veolia and set up an action plan to immediately start doing what we can to address the state of the streets. So that includes establishing a nighttime response team who are dedicated to going into our town centres and cleaning up during the night time, because obviously we recognise that, you know, it's not sustainable to have crews cleaning up in the day and then mess created in the night time, and then that stays there overnight and gets worse. So we've created that response team with Veolia. We've recruited 10 additional enforcement officers who join the existing team of enforcement officers on the streets in town centres and busy sort of spots in the borough, like tube stations, train stations. And their job is to essentially prevent, and if they witness it, fine anybody who's caught littering in the borough, so messing up the borough. Their job is to fine them. We've recruited 10 additional enforcement officers. And we've also provided an emergency response vehicle to respond to fly tipping quicker. The leader and the cabinet member are keeping this action plan under review and are making sure that we keep pressure on Veolia, the contractor, to perform as they're supposed to be. But it's not as simple as the council that. It means you're everyone's help. We need to take a stake in keeping our borough clean. And that's why we've partnered with an app called Fix My Streets. Some of you may have come across it, some of you may have already downloaded it. If you haven't, I urge you to. It's free and it's very easy to use. And what you can do is on that app, you can easily report fly tipping, but you can report many other things as well at the exact location where you've seen it. And then the council's commitment, particularly for fly tipping, is to get to it and clear it up within 24 hours of it being reported. So using that app is a much more efficient and easy way for people to report something, that information to go to the council, for us to monitor it, send a crew out to collect it, and then check that it's been done. And you then get a follow-up email to say when it's been cleared, so that you
Would it be cheaper just to go around knocking on people's doors when you live, go, if you see something, do it?
I think the app is free, so that's...
No, what I'm saying is they call you, and the guys come out.
The point is, we need everyone's help to keep the borough clean. The council is doing what it can, we need everyone's help as well. And as I said, it's not just fly tipping you can report, it's if you see graffiti everywhere, it's if a isn't working, if you find an abandoned vehicle on your road, if there's a problem at a bus stop, like the light of the bus isn't working, the screen isn't working, you can on this app and it will all get picked up and addressed. So I urge you to use that. And as I said, we'll be taking a decision next week about whether to continue or to extend the contract that we have with Veolia. I can't obviously preempt the decision the Cabinet will take, but you know, I'm sharing with you that I expect that the decision will be that we won't continue with Veolia and we'll look to how we can provide a different or new service that meets the needs of everyone who lives here, because we recognise the service that's been provided so far has not been good enough. There's a second app I want to plug for you all. If you haven't already downloaded the Merton Local app, it's a fantastic app developed by the council, and what the purpose of it is for local businesses that are local to Merton, to our high streets, town centres. They advertise their services, their shops, their events on there, and it's highlighted then for everyone who's downloaded the app, because we all say we want to support our town centres and our high streets, but in reality, do we know what's on offer in our get the word out about what is available so that we can all shop local, buy local. So I encourage you to use local app. It's already been 1,000 people, and there's more than 300 organisations that are advertising their services on there. I've got a couple couple more things I want to run through quite quickly. I've talked about the target that we've got to deliver 400 homes on council-owned land by the end of, by the council elections in 2026. We've already unlocked funding the first 93 of those. So since the election, we've already achieved that, and we'll be working to continue to unlock the funding for the remaining number. 250 new electric vehicle charging points are going to be coming into the borough. That's as a result of a successful bid for funds that the council made from the Office for Electric Vehicles, or I forget Office for Zero Emission Vehicles. And on top of that, we've had an additional, since the election, we've had an additional £2 million into the council's climate emergency fund. So that's money, additional money that we set aside to use to tackle the climate emergency and help us reach our net zero target. The council, by the way, the council as an organisation has committed to achieving net zero by 2030. The rest of the borough, in line with the government's target that the rest of the country is aiming to achieve, is for net zero by 2050. So the council is setting a more ambitious target than the government to tackle the climate emergency we're all facing. And on sport, in July, we approved the investment of £1 million into local sports facilities to boost local participation. This includes tennis courts, athletics, tracks, sports fields, they're all on the list. And in fact, on tennis, 40 of the council's 69 tennis courts are now in a programme of refurbishment that's kicking off this year. So we're going to be resurfacing and refurbishing 40 of our almost 70 tennis courts. And finally, just one final area for me to touch on, as well as all of those administration priorities that are going to be there throughout the length of the administration, we've also taken action to tackle the big issue that we're all facing, the cost of living crisis. And this is obviously a national crisis. Everyone in the country is dealing with it, but we in Merton are doing what we can to help people here. So within a month after the election, we created a new £2 million emergency fund that we're using to help local people who have been hit the hardest by inflation and rising bills. We've already, as a council, got one of the most generous council tax support schemes on offer in the country, but we're going further. We've hosted 4 cost of living events across the borough already. I'm delighted that we're hosting another. Thank you to every organisation that's participated in that. And you know, we've had many residents attend the previous events, and we're able to get a lot of advice and support in tackling increasing bills. We're continuing to provide school meal vouchers to our school holidays. You may remember campaign from a couple of years ago during the height of the pandemic. We've continued that. We're providing the funding for children to continue having nutritious meals during school holidays.
How can you a child get £2.30? That is what it's for the dinner. I think it's £2 like, but it's still not enough.
Yeah, I think it's a voucher that goes towards being able to pay for nutritious food for children that wouldn't otherwise be there. So, you know, I think it's obviously down to parents to spend the money as best they can for their children. But, you know, I think in the scheme of things, a lot of parents who benefit from the vouchers scheme have told us that they wouldn't have been able to provide food for their kids if it wasn't for that. So, you know, I think it has made a major difference. So all of that is by way of saying, since the elections in May, the new administration has set out a number of key priorities, but the headline one, the number one priority for the administration, for the leader, is to reinvigorate pride in our borough, and I've set out a number of ways that we're aiming to achieve that. So sorry for taking so much time. Happy to either take any questions, or if I can't field them, happy to take them back to the leader and come back to the answer.
Thank you. So we'll take them round to 3, and then so 1 there, and then so that you can ask questions. Yeah. Yeah. So 2, and then a third hand up.
starting with fly tipping, Croydon have a system where when they prosecute somebody, their picture and their thing is in paper. We don't need to do that. Portable house. What is it?
Okay, so housing and prosecuting organised fly tippers. Next question.
Just to sort of carry on what he said now, the fly tipping wasn't an issue back in the day. They used to have rag and bone men come round. But it's now, I know people who still do it, not fly tip, but they take rubbish. It's 180 quid a tonne to put rubbish in there. That's the problem, really. Too greedy.
So we've got one question.
But now, just to sort of carry on that as well, but what he said about the dinners, now I watched the thing on Jamie Oliver, right? He goes around, he's great, he's brilliant. And he goes to farmers. And the farmers, what, they give out the fruit. If it's not a certain shape or size, it gets thrown away. That's thrown away. So why not tap into that, into farmers? You can put that into school. Costs you nothing.
So we've got the
For
market,
kids.
we've got the market economics of waste, and also I think they call it, is it funny shaped edge?
Yeah, you know, a lot of supermarkets go there, they go, it's not suitable for our packaging, so it gets discarded and thrown away. Jamie Oliver said why, so you can go to farmers, which will help the local people as well, and you know, grassroots blokes, if you want to call them that. And there you go, and it's going to be cheap, isn't it? Because otherwise it's going to get thrown away. Save a fortune. Kids can eat decent meals.
Funding for 93 homes, you announced that you were going to fork out money to actually upgrade the plans to make them suitable. You didn't announce the value of them, which you just, I think I heard you say you've got the money to do that, to actually build them, which is different to the 300,000, I think, off the top of my head. So just on top of the 2.1 million we've already spent on the plans, so we're now on 2.4 million. What's the actual value of the building the homes, which obviously I think is expensive, which is why you agreed it was unviable a few years ago.
So questions on affordable housing, building in Merton, really important. Share planning, very, very important to me. Fly tipping, and obviously
I've got loads more.
You've got loads more.
Sure. So, starting with you first, sir. On what are affordable homes, essentially there's a national definition of what counts as an affordable home.
Can you tell me?
Yeah, so for affordable rent, that essentially is classified as 80% of market rent. So that's what the government classify as an affordable home or affordable rented home. That is an affordable rented home. That is obviously separate to what I and many other people, many organisations consider to be genuinely affordable homes. And so when I say we're committing to building genuinely affordable homes, what that generally means is social rent, which is much lower than the 80% affordable rent that is given. I don't have off the top of my head the figure for the level of social rent. That's what we're aiming for. It's much lower than the affordable 80% market rent that the government sort of uses. Maybe other councillors with more specialist knowledge about housing can jump in if they have knowledge about social rent, but it's essentially what we're considering genuinely affordable as opposed to the government's affordable.
There'll always be 8% lower than the market price of the other.
Not 80% lower, 80% up. So if market rent is 100%, they're saying affordable is 80% of that. So 20% off. Yeah. And on prosecuting fly tipping, you're right that we need to do more. Merton in the last 8 months or so launched what it's calling the Wall of Shame. We are publishing CCTV footage that we've got, where we've got it, of people that sort of caught red-handed fly tipping. We're publishing that, we're publishing the YouTube videos, we're asking for everyone's help in identifying who it is that's doing this so that we can then prosecute them. We
Can't you just go to the tips or the yards so that, listen, can you lower the costs of people? Because I know people up on the estate, they actually do it for a living. They can't, £180 a tonne, Can't you actually go to the tip? So can you lower it, please? We'll come here 4 or 5 times a week, lower it to 70 quid, and then like, oh, happy days, I can earn a living instead of trying to scratch about. It's top heavy, mate. Simple as that. Working class, and that's the old chestnut.
Can I
I
come
live
in
with
on
these
that?
people, and it's true.
I think, I mean, that's a good point. That's probably more detailed into than Billy would even admit he's not in the market economics of waste. But ultimately, they need to pay their bills, so someone will need to subsidise their profit share or whatever their.
It's just gone for the roof. It doesn't make sense, and it causes a problem for everybody else.
I completely understand.
I know these boys. People saying he ain't got a shirt and he's a scumbag. It ain't like that. Bloke up there, he's got 2 kids. Nicest bloke you meet in your life. 180 quid, he can't afford it. What's the point?
But I think this shows the complexity, but he will continue talking of this problem in terms of waste management and everything else.
Yeah, so I think there is a sort of separate issue of commercial fly tipping and how we tackle that versus the sort of more everyday fly tipping. You know, someone leaving their mattress on the street or.
What I'm saying is you give all this money for CCTV and stuff.
Sorry to interrupt.
What's the point?
I think people
redirect it.
I do think people want to hear the answers. So if you let me finish the answers, and then we can come back and have another question. That's all right. Let me get through it. So we are trying to, we have committed to prosecuting everyone where we've got evidence that they fly tipping. We've asked for residents' help in identifying residents' wall of shame. So if you have the opportunity to have a look, if you spot anyone, if you recognise anyone, tell us, we'll take them to court, because it's not good enough, and it is a crime. I think the points you make about providing nutrition.
Just saying, there isn't just a blinkered way we're going to find them and put CCTV out and get people to grasp them up. Go to the tips and say, can you lower it? You haven't got to spend thousands and thousands on CCTV for a start, and direct the funds in the right direction. It's us. No, you're getting this. That's how it comes across to people. You don't understand that. It does. Yeah, to get amongst them and talk to these people and say, listen, there we go. Instead of CCTV, all this, it goes on and on and on, escalates, and then what you got?
Yeah,
people don't like being told what to do. I pointed at. They've had enough. That's that. Around the world. Enough.
I think simple. Let's let Billy complete. And
I can't.
Otherwise, no. Fair
I'll
points.
put the soapbox away.
No, it's fair points. But you've made some really great questions, but Billy can't answer them unless you let him answer.
Well, there's a lot on my head. I'm talking about the whole. I'm representing the whole estate here. I'm sorry.
I appreciate that. So I do understand your points.
Yeah.
I think though we do have to. And this isn't my portfolio, so I'm no expert on this, but we do have to see what we can do to support people in the commercial waste sector about how they continue to operate as a sustainable business. But at the end of the day, fly tipping, dumping waste on other land is a crime, and that needs to be
I'll just
tackled.
explain why, because I know people who do it and can't afford it. And that
Yes,
sounds ridiculous.
There's always reasons why people commit crimes. But at the end of the day,
forget the crime thing. He's looking at his 2 little kids here, they're young kids, right? Let's get on a sensible level. Forget all this crime crap. He's looking at 2 kids here, and he needs to feed them. And he's thinking, shit, I've got the money. This is my job. And man. In the end,
I appreciate that, and we've got to support.
that's what it really is. It's not about crimes and all this, do this and do
anyway,
that.
if I can move on to the third question around housing. You're right, we announced the intention to spend some money to bring the plans for the 93 homes on the first 4 council-owned sites that we got planning permission for. We announced that we're spending £300,000 to bring those plans up to the necessary standard to go ahead with building. In terms of securing the funding for actually building them, we have, I don't want to announce the amount yet because I'm not sure that's been made publicly available, but we have secured funding through the GLA to get started on building these homes. So I'm not in a position to announce.
Get started or build them.
Well, build them.
You've got the actual full balance sitting there.
Well, we've secured it. I can't tell you if it's in a bank account, but we've secured it.
year ago it was unviable, and it was clear it was unviable.
It was
and now
unviable.
It's not.
Was it unviable for?
And they were not even affordable homes at the time. Only one of the 4 sites was
Exactly.
affordable.
So they're not.
So
being
now
built.
they're all affordable.
They're not
So now
being-
it should be more expensive, not less expensive than it was last time. Because you're going to make profits last time, whereas now you're not going to make any profit.
It depends on economics of them. Again, I appreciate, I've not seen economics of it, so let's wait until we see that and then come to the
No,
next
it was
one.
it was announced just then that you have the funds, but I don't think we do.
Okay. Well.
Let's see that. I think Mike, you put your hand up. Then, so Mike,
Yeah, I think agree with you, but no, I just think this gentleman. I think the point was.
That's cool, man.
I think the point was really, rather than looking at the fact that what it was addressing the crime, was looking at the causes of the crime and addressing the cause.
Yeah.
Because the solutions generally follow the same pattern and they don't really solve the problem. They eventually make it worse because it all relates to money ultimately. So if we can look at the reasons why people are kind of doing it,
I agree with you.
I think it's just the approach that we're taking needs to be changed.
I do understand and I do agree with what you're saying, and we do need to see what we can do and do more of it to support people who are, trying to earn an honest living. But the question was about prosecuting people that fly tip, and I think it's got to be.
It's a cause and effect, isn't it? That's what
it's a cause and effect, but it's also a carrot and stick. That you want to prevent people from breaking the law. If they do break their law, there has to be consequences. So I think it's a.
But again, I just on the tangent a little bit. If you look all over the world before the lockdown, everybody all over the world was going, "We've had enough of you governments," and that's true, all over the world. And then now all of a sudden it's, oh, look, COVID's coming, lock it down, cost of living, and we're all trod down again. So, do you know what I mean? Same sort of
That's an
thing.
interesting interpretation. I'm not sure I'd go along with that view.
I know,
well,
but
but
it's just perception.
I don't know if anyone else has any other questions or.
I think
There was the other question was about the walking bridge.
Yeah.
There is a scheme for that. Sustainable Merton's got a scheme called the community fridge.
Oh, brilliant! That's good.
Let's
actually do something here as well, don't they?
Yeah.
That free food, brilliant. It's brilliant. That's a good thing. You've got to look at things. Come down.
Yeah.
I'll tell you your job. You do your job.
Yeah, absolutely. Got it. Can we
I've
all-
taken up all your time.
No,
Dave,
no,
I'm
Billy,
sorry
it's all
about
good.
this.
Can we think Billy in the usual way, because I really appreciate that.
Do come up to me afterwards if there's anything else. Happy to continue.
You've heard that.
Are you sure?
See you in a day. Super. Alright, so we're here all night. What do you usually customers do? Alright, tomorrow, please come up and speak. Leonie's our assembly member, so she'll be able to views on what's happening across London.
I will. And I'm going to say now, if you've got thoughts, some of you have quite a lot of thoughts, can you wait till the end?
Please.
No.
Yes. No, because otherwise I'm going to get really,
Oh, go on.
it's a bit complicated.
Go on.
There's so many different things, and it would be really helpful if you don't mind doing that. Just for those of you who may not be familiar with the ins and outs of the London Assembly, 25 London Assembly members are elected at the same time as the Mayor of London. I was elected in 2016 and I was re-elected in 2021, and I'm obviously one of those 25. I represent, and most of the constituencies range from 2 boroughs, so I represent Merton and Wandsworth. Some of them represent 3 boroughs. London North East is Waltham Forest, Hackney and Islington. So they're quite large constituencies. So I do try and get round to most of the community forums in Merton on a sort of rolling basis, just to sort of keep people updated. Because obviously a lot of the services that we've just been discussing, that Billy's just been talking about, are things that are run from the council. Then there are the things that where the government makes the decisions, and either City Hall or the council has to implement it and work within the boundaries that the government sets. And then there are some things that actually can be decided at City Hall level, and there are various budgets that the Mayor holds. So Billy was just talking about the 4 sites and housing, and one of the things that just before May and just afterwards, I was talking to the Deputy Mayor, Tom Copley, and saying it's really important that we make sure that we can do some investment into Merton. So the money has, your question, the money's not quite arrived yet, but Tom Copley has been down and has visited the sites with the leader of the council and the cabinet member for housing, and so it's in progress now. Exactly where it is in progress, I think it's a bit difficult to ask Billy to go into all the details of that, because he's neither the leader nor the cabinet member for housing. But I think that's really positive, and that's the kind of thing that I can do at City Hall, is talk to the Deputy Mayor for Housing, but also the Deputy Mayor for Planning, who's called Jules Pipe, and so I've taken the opportunity to talk about the gasworks site with Jules and some of the planning officers there, because particularly big planning schemes are not just dealt with by Aidan and colleagues on the planning committee here, but if it's taller than a certain height, or if it's got more than a certain number of flats or houses on that site, it also goes to City Hall for the planners there to have a look at, and they get the opportunity to do a stage 1 review and decision, and then a stage 2 review and decision. So that's mainly on big sites. If it's a really small site, that doesn't come into the picture. And so we're there to be the voice of Londoners, particularly the people in our constituencies, and to hold the mayor to account. So we have a series of committees, very similar to the council committees, where we sort of delve into the details of particular areas. I sit on the Environment Committee. I've been the chair and the deputy chair at various points over the last 6.5 years. I'm currently the deputy chair again. I'll be the chair from next May. And I'm also on the Housing Committee. I'm also on the Fire Resilience and Emergency Planning Committee, but we also have meetings where the mayor is in front of us, like Prime Minister's Questions, which is once a week for half an hour. We have the mayor once a month for 3 hours. So he doesn't have to do it every week, but it is for a very long period of time. And I must say that during Ramadan, I do feel really sorry for him, because he does 3 hours, and obviously he's not drinking or eating during that period of time, and it can be quite, you know, it's quite wearing actually. I think at any time, even with a nice cup of tea. So some of the big services that the mayor runs, apart from having this role in the planning system, are things like the Metropolitan Police, the Fire Brigade and Transport for London. Now, of course, those have not been in the news at all. There's nothing on the front page of today's paper about the Metropolitan Police. You know, the police are in the spotlight at the moment pretty much all the time. I've seen pictures on social media that were sent to me of the car that Chris Cubber was driving, which actually, although it was in Lambeth, was not far from where I live, so I'm just over the border from Merton and Lambeth. I live right down in the southeast of Wandsworth. And, you know, when they're not doing that, they appear to spend all their time sending each other hideous WhatsApp messages. It's almost unbelievable. I mean, at the moment, I don't really know what to say about the Metropolitan Police. I do know some fantastic officers, but obviously, you know, their good name is being tainted by all of these revelations that keep coming out, and it's just not good enough. Now, obviously, we parted company with Cressida Dick. You can ask me about that if you want. I wasn't in the room. I didn't hear what the mayor said to Cressida Dick. Only they will ever really know what got said. But, you know, we've now got a new Metropolitan Police Commissioner, and Mark Raleigh, and he will come in front of the Police and Crime Committee, and so Assembly members will have the opportunity not just to say and another thing to the mayor, but in our committees we do get the opportunity to say and another thing to the senior officers from the Metropolitan Police, and believe me, there's been a lot of that being said at the moment. Dame Louise Casey, who actually started life working in social housing, is doing a deep dive at the moment into the culture of the Metropolitan Police. She doesn't normally take prisoners when she does these investigations, so I think the report that she comes out with should be quite interesting, along with the ones that have come out from His Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary, HMIC, and they've also just done one from His Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary for the Fire Brigade, which has come up with some very similar stuff about the culture in the Fire Brigade that also needs to be tackled as well. So, and there is also the issue of funding for these big services as well, and so sometimes also, you know, we're looking at high levels of stress and a lot of police officers who might be off sick, and the same with the Fire Brigade. You know, it's very, very difficult because we are expecting more and more of officers when they, you know, counter-terror, cybercrime, guarding Buckingham Palace, guarding Parliament, you know, the list goes on and on and on. And some of those things we expect them to do in the Metropolitan Police, we don't actually get any, very little funding from the government to do it. They don't give us enough money for being because we are the national and international capital city. Their own assessment from the Home Office says we should get £192 million more than they actually give to the Metropolitan Police. So, you know, obviously that leaves a bit of a hole in the finances. And then they do all the other, you know, the everyday stuff, the safe neighbourhood teams, policing football matches, you name it, they're doing it. And because of the underfunding of the health service, and because of the underfunding of local authorities actually as well, the police quite often get dragged into doing some other things, like trying to deal with someone who's, you know, perhaps having a sort of a bit of a moment on the side of the road, and there aren't really the social workers or the health workers, mental health workers available anymore to do that. So they quite often are getting towed into doing that sort of thing as well. The fire brigade have been incredibly busy. You'll probably remember, although it seems a bit unbelievable now because it's getting a bit colder, but back in July it was boiling, it was 40 degrees. They dealt with, on one day alone, and the place where they answer all the phone calls is actually in Merton. They were dealing with literally thousands of people ringing up saying there's fires, there's grass fires. There was a big situation that developed in the park of Malden Hall, and it was those barbecues, those temporary barbecues. They get really, really hot, and once they put out the fire, they found 5 of them. They found 5 barbecues. So I think they dealt with something like 4,000 fires during the course of July. It's astonishing. And that is, I can't even remember, it's like off the planet many more than they would normally deal with in a particular month. So the fire brigade have been very busy. TfL, Transport for London, there's been a bit of a war that's gone on between the London over the need for extra funding to support TfL, because a lot of people were told to work from home, almost everybody was told to work from home, and so we don't get any extra money coming into TfL pretty much, apart from what comes out of people's fares, the fare box. So obviously if everyone was staying at home and wasn't paying their fare, TfL had no money. Now that was the same across the rest of the country, and the government was happy to give lots of money to private transport operators, other local authorities everywhere else, but they had a row with London, and they've been giving London little settlements, in some cases lasting like 1 week or 2 weeks. I don't know how they think anyone could plan. We've agreed another settlement, but some of the things that they've put around the edges of agreeing the settlement, they waited until the night before the money runs out, and then they said, oh well, if you want the money tomorrow, you've just got to agree to, and then have said, you know, here's 10 things that you've got to do. So it's been going on like that for months. Now it might change, because Grant Shapps was never on my Christmas card list. He was the Secretary of State for Transport, and I did a little dance of joy when I heard that he wasn't going to be the Secretary of State for Transport, because I just think he's been absolutely dreadful. So the funding is now there, and hopefully will see us through, and we think from April next year, 2023, the finances of TfL on a day-to-day basis should be back where, you know, in good running order again. There's still an argument that needs to be completed over the capital finance. So you might notice on some of the tube lines, the seats are looking a bit rough. The Bakerloo is particularly bad. They've also been looking at, I can't now read my own writing, they've also been looking at, buses. They were cutting buses, so there's been a big consultation that started in May and closed in August about whether or not bus routes should be cut, which was a bit strange because that coincided with a big consultation over whether or not US, the Central Zone, should be expanded to cover the whole of London. Both of those consultations are closed. They have not yet come up with a conclusion or analysed all of the results, although somebody from TfL last week decided to send some of the results to the Daily Telegraph or the Sunday Telegraph. So there's a bit of a row going on about, you know, whether or not the figures that came in for the ULEZ, the ultra low emission zone responses, whether they were even people who lived in London. Apparently some of them weren't. So I think I'll leave it there. Some people may have some questions. Actually, I can answer your question about the difference between Wimbledon and here. We have the same situation across London, and the shops in Wimbledon got together in something that's called a BID, which is a business improvement district. They don't have one in Tooting because the shops there voted against it. They don't have one in, they didn't have one in Clapham Junction because they also voted against it, but they've now changed their minds. The shops themselves have to get together to bring that in, and the larger shops and the smaller shops pay different amounts of money to then employ someone who replaces the town centre managers because of the 60% reduction in local authority is coming in from the government. Most town centre managers were no longer affordable, so the shops in Mitcham would have to vote in favour of having one, a BID, a business improvement district. The one in Wimbledon is called Love Wimbledon.
Thank you, that's good answer.
Just got to say about the ULEZ and the congestion, just jobs. It cost me, I was a window cleaner in London, and it cost me over £50 before I even started work. So ULEZ congestion, 2 hours parking, 50 quid before I even cleaned the window. And another thing about TfL, they sent me out a couple of fines on the camera. Apparently I hadn't done it, I hadn't replied to their response and whatever else. And I took them to court, and it was a load of rubbish. I actually won the case, 2 cases I won the case. So sending out these fines, you've been caught on CCTV, turning there and turning there. And it wasn't the case at all. So I actually sent an email to the mayor, no response. But I actually won the cases, so you know there's a lot of underhand stuff going on here, and that other stuff. And bearing in mind that all this electric stuff that seems to be the craze now was actually over 100 years ago. Did you know that? 100 years ago, with electric cars and stuff. So you know.
Yeah, trams and trolley buses were.
100 years ago, this technology was about, but they've ignored it and just plundered the planet, and look at the state of it now.
We have also gone through a phase of having things pulled by horses, so sometimes the things that we did in the past. I mean, I would agree with you. I think if you get written to, and it's not just by TfL, you know, if Merton Council writes to you, if Wandsworth Council writes to you, if Lambeth Council writes to you, and they say, oh, we saw you doing something.
No, I had bailiffs on the door.
Always check if they've sent you photographs, because they do sometimes get it wrong.
Now what I'm saying is I had bailiffs round, and he's actually a really nice guy. He says, I'll tell you what, do yourself a favour, go down the post office and get yourself an out of time form, which I did, got a solicitor to sign it for 20 quid, sent it off,
they do
and I won the
get it wrong.
case. So he done me a favour because he was savvy, he was like a genuine person.
Sometimes it's wrong, and also the other thing that sometimes happens is, and there's a bit of a plague of this actually, and obviously I spent quite some time talking to the police, is people using your number plates on different vehicles. So sometimes it's worth looking at it because it might be that someone is using cloned number plates and is pretending to be driving your car. I mean, they might have put them on a completely different vehicle. So if you get sent something, always look at it in detail.
You can always put hairspray on the number plate, it stops the camera, doesn't it? Because it reflects back. There you go, there's one for you.
Ryan, you haven't mentioned what happened to us. Recently, because of strikes, the tube, and this was this weekend gone, was overfull with people. We were suffocating, and it has been discussed in the past about ventilation of the tubes, and I'm just wondering if there is any money to actually do, because I'm surprised people were fainting everywhere. It was overfull, but it was hot, and we were underground. So will there be some money at some point from the mayor?
Well, that was the one thing I did say, was that although they've agreed the money for Transport for London on a day-to-day basis, they haven't agreed the capital funding and improving ventilation in a big way on the tube. I mean, I thought they had gone out of their way to try and improve ventilation in the COVID period, and everybody who travels is always advised to travel with a bottle of water, so that if people do become hot, or if obviously if, you know, the trains get, which they do sometimes get stuck in the tunnels, always make sure you're travelling with water. But I can't imagine that the government is suddenly going to completely do a U-turn and suddenly say you can have any amount of capital funding to spend on the tubes. I can't quite see that happening, can you? I mean, I'd love to hear that that was going to be the case.
They should have a health and safety inquiry, because the amount of people that get crammed into them tubes. Now the thing is, if you have a crash and that train, for instance, is going 50 miles an hour, you then go 50 miles an hour, and it's overcrowded like that. And they talk about this health and safety stuff, but they don't actually, like when it comes to them, they don't listen. Things like on the buses, on the trains, same thing. So we need more trains, but then it gets money, isn't it? What do you do?
Well, I think it'd be quite hard to get very many more trains onto most of the underground system. I mean, I missed a train at London Bridge when I was changing from the Jubilee to the Northern Line this evening. Looked at the sign and it said the next train was coming in 1 minute.
Yeah.
And quite often during the rush hour, the trains are that frequent, so it's hard to imagine that they could run more trains on some parts of the underground. That would be really quite difficult, and I actually don't think they achieve speeds of 50 miles an hour.
I'm talking about trains, not just tube trains.
Oh, the
trains do, yeah, it's the same thing, crowding people on there, and if it crashes, you then go at the speed the train is going.
I mean, obviously, we do run the London Overground as well, which has actually been a great success. Obviously, the other big success, which I haven't mentioned because it's sort of nowhere near here, I don't know if you've managed to get up to where the Elizabeth line is yet, but I would suggest going there because it is quite the most, it is quite an amazing system. I would, that was Crossrail 1. Crossrail 2 would come to Merton and Wandsworth, becoming north-south. Crossrail 1, the Elizabeth line, goes east-west. But it is the most amazing system, and it glides along, and it does feel very nicely air conditioned as well. But they're very, very big tunnels. So that's probably TfL's biggest success in the last 5, 10, 15 years, something like that. I think they got the funding package through Parliament sometime between 2005 and 10. That's how long it takes to bring these things in. Yeah, a long time.
Thank you, Leonie. Really, really appreciate it. Can we all thank Leonie? Our last speaker tonight is Amy, and we'll talk about climate action.
Hi everyone, my name is Amy Mallet. I'm the Climate Engagement Officer. I don't know if any of you met my colleague Dominique Hill. Long and short of it really is the council has a strategy action plan. Councillor Christie said target to net zero wide by 50. Can send people trying to play into the cost of living theme this evening, because reducing emissions, working towards that, means that we're probably also working to reduce our energy demand, their energy bills, reducing fuel poverty, and comfort. So it all and strategy on the council's website. We have a climate plan which shows you what we're making towards us, and that's all on the website as well. So the main reason I wanted to talk to you this evening was to highlight some of the focus activities and how climate change can seem quite abstract, but we set up a resident group. So I closely committed volunteers who set up carbon reduction projects. You might have heard of Merton Garden Streets. Yeah. Energy into William Morris, Lonesome and Singlegate, and basically introduced a module to teach climate change, see if they can their families. I realise also lots of families are already making as many cuts and savings as they can. It's try and get sustainable green careers, because the sector is going to grow. Actually, things that happen is work created residents. All you get involved, and you can send me an email about that. We also have a climate action newsletter, so that's how we tell residents about events going on in the borough. So we're trying to focus much more on East Merton over the coming weeks and months. We did hold a cycle cinema at Can's House and Grounds a couple of weeks ago. So get kids involved, got them pedalling to try and, you know, make the screen move and create
It was a great event.
Yeah, no, you were there, weren't you? So yeah, we had free doctored bike maintenance sessions as well for residents to try and get residents travelling on their bike. Cannon Summer Fair as well, hopefully some of you attended that. We had everything from solar powered scale electrics to kids to some of the more serious stuff around home energy efficiency savings. So trying to tick off all those boxes, trying to support families and trying to inspire children as well. We will have a climate action engagement strategy coming out in the next few months, so that will be around a lot more of the activity for how we engage with residents around climate change. We want to make it interesting, we want to make sure residents are brought along for the journey. There's a lot around climate justice which needs to be brought into conversations about how we reduce emissions across our buildings and energy, across our transport. So the more residents that we get involved in these conversations, the better. So that's part of the reason for coming and speaking to you this evening as well. And I think that's probably where I want to leave there. I would just encourage you to sign up to the Climate Action newsletter and
one question. You mentioned change.
pollution.
Yes. Are there any more plans by the government by the council to increase pollution?
To decrease pollution. So
Well, they've done it with closing roads off. They've done it by reducing the 20 now. Yes, and then the dreaded I'm calling speed bumps, but where we are. And people, buses are the same. I go down to Mitcham, it's an awful journey with all the bumps.
I probably can't speak for my colleagues in highways, transport and air quality. They'd be the ones that focus most on that. We do have 65 school streets now in the borough, so that's to try and reduce air pollution around schools, particularly important for the development of children and their lungs essentially. Other things that we're doing around transport, I couldn't tell you too much detail, but I'm happy to take the question away to colleagues.
Well, there's common side east, the road closed off. So everywhere they go on the same road. And it's in the rush hour. You don't like the cars have exhaust. And it's more exhausting.
I think that depends on, I mean, so what else is going on, what the government doing to tackle climate change. I mean, on that particular thing about cars, I mean, that's generally, it's a national government issue because of the supply side. And then they provide us to get a new car which is less polluting, and also for those who produce cars to produce better cars, basically. So, I mean, in terms of specifics, what I know the council's doing big for local areas to green in for environment and wider in the supply side. Now, you mentioned before about cars polluting, but let's make sure we have a detail.
With midnight.
It depends on the area as well. I mean, ultimately 20 mile an hour is about road safety as well as reducing pollution.
You can take that 50 miles an hour.
But the issue with pollution is about fuel use. So if you go over 2,000 RPM, then you're using more fuel. So it's about efficient driving. So it's a bit more. And again, there are some roads in the borough where we've looked at and we've revised what the speed limit is. And these things are all about evolution, iteration. Sometimes it's right first time, sometimes it isn't. You've got to look at the road that you shouldn't be. If you're in my patch, come up and talk to me. If you're in someone else's patch, have a chat with them and let's put it through the test and use data and what we do is proper.
As well, will minute massively unaffordable, and the price has been and will continue to come down. But the investment that the council will put into through the government that we receive
I mentioned this because it's coming through committees and new builds, new homes have charges within those automatically. So ultimately, it's about the wider ecosystem as well. It's not just the public grounds.
I think what we realise that we are actually based, right? And number two is nobody's actually died from that unless you put your mouth over it, exhaust, right? Well, planting more trees would help. Building high-rise blocks actually reduces air quality. And just finally, any electric equipment increases radiation. And this is and cancer, right? And this is part of the war in Ukraine because they've got a lithium. Lithium is the batteries, right? And after 5 or 6 years, then batteries become no good. Throw them away again, it creates more problems. So we're jumping out the frying pan into the fire. Hydrogen, an engine, most of the substance in the universe, hydrogen. This is where we should be at now, not where we're going now.
Well, actually, hydrogen, I mean, you raised the subject I wrote my undergraduate thesis on. So I'm talking about hydrogen.
Yes, let's go
conversation. I mean, basically, but I mean, I'm going to your point before. I mean, frankly, I think it's disingenuous to say that people haven't died because of pollution.
No. I said this, you put your mouth over it. Well, we are carbon based.
People have died. You know, there's asthmatics who have died because of the atmosphere.
But that's actually to the they got the very good. You get to a point.
I think that's but I appreciate your point. Thank you very much, Amy. Thank you everyone. Big thank you to Amy, to Billy, to Leonie, and all to yourselves. So this closes down the more formal part. We have some great organisations who are here to support you. So I'll ask Chris to turn off the camera, and if I can ask some of them to come up and just introduce who they are, what they're doing, and what they're here, and what they can offer. That would be fantastic. So I think we'll start with Mike. Can we start with you, Mike?
Yeah, of course. Good evening all. Michael Wilson. I am from Croydon. That's one of the languages. So from Croydon, Merton. I should say Merton, Croydon, the Sutton Credit Union. Most people don't know what credit union is. Basically, we are a community bank and ethical financial solution for real people. Basically, we're trying to improve financial resilience and offer everybody an account for savings and also access to ethical and affordable lending. And those are the key things we do. Also, we do provide or aim to provide financial education and also support where we can. We'll be outside if you need us.
Cool. Proceed, and we'll bring Susan. Would you? Your hand up.
Hi, very quickly, lovely to see you. I can hear a few stomachs rumbling, so I'm going to speak very quickly. I'm Suzanne, I'm from Systems Advice Merton and Lambeth. Merton Systems Advice was actually one of the very first Systems Advice services to open across the country. So we have been working in Merton for over 80 years, and for a number of years have been Mitcham for decades. We've got late 1950s, 1960s time. Systems Advice is a charity. We've got nothing to do with the council, we've got nothing to do with the government. Each and every Systems Advice is a charity. So what you have in Merton, we run 2 offices and we provide a range of advice from literally from a query about we're not quite sure which page on the government website we should be looking at or which benefit perhaps confused here, right through to generalist advice, assessments, and then right through to specialist advice such as debt and immigration. You can contact us in 3 main ways. You can come along to our Mitcham or our Malden offices. We run also in events. We will be at Pollard's Hill at the end of later this month.
What time do you open, sorry?
We open to 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Exactly that, you can't miss us. We have a Merton advice line, so that's a telephone advice service that is dedicated purely for Merton residents. Again, that is open between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Monday to Friday. And then we also have what's called an online advice query form. So literally at any time during the day, any day of the week, you can submit your query via online. Last year, I thought last year was probably the worst year we have ever experienced, both as charity assistance advice, and I've been leading charities for 20 years. This year, I've never seen anything like it. So we know it is really, really difficult for people. We are there to do our best to help individuals. Times very long time told that there are delays and things to do our best. So thank you very much.
Hello guys, Martha Lindsay, London Learning Consortium. This is my colleague Jaya. I understand London Learning Consortium is a massive mouthful, so just call us LLC. We are a training provider based in Croydon, but we're working across Merton, Wandsworth, basically South West London generally. What we do, we are running a program for health and social care. We're looking to get people into work, training, university, anything. It doesn't just have to be, nurse, care worker. It could be anything, admin. If you're working in a dental office, that counts. So we're looking to move into a new industry. And it's all voluntary. So, I've been going around, Jazz also been going around through the job centres, but a lot of times people feel a bit intimidated when they're in job centres. So we like to come out, and Jazz set this up so we can come out and actually speak to the community one-to-one as people. Right? We're a non-profit organisation, we don't get anything out of this, we're really just trying to help. And quite honestly, we can spend as much time with people as you need. I don't care if you're ready to work tomorrow, or if you need a year to reskill. If you need to learn how to use a computer, I don't have 10-minute appointments. I've got a complete clear diary. I can sit down with you and teach you how to use a computer. I'll spend 2 hours doing it. I don't care if you're not so great at speaking English. We have English, ESOL classes, construction, CSCS, we do everything. So if you're come speak to me, because yeah, I'm raised on a council estate just like this one, My mum struggled, was in and out of work. I understand what it's like to not, have no for dinner or 10 or NHS. We actually care about the community, different communities. This is we're not being paid to be here. I'm from Lewisham. I've taken a train down there to be an hour and a half. So realistically, this is me. No, I get as much out of it. I work in the job centre. I was working. A lot of people who work within the job centres and within the government, they want to help, but they're restricted, and it's not their fault, and they have families to feed and whatnot. But I moved here because I want to help. I'm sure you're the same. So speak to us. It could be a kid, it could be a niece, it could be a friend. We can take anyone from 16 up to the years of 175 if you somehow manage to live that long. Come up with a word with us, we'll be here as well.
We have clinical and non-clinical roles, so you don't have to be a nurse, doctor, or something. So you can be a porter. There are other roles and care homes as well, so you can be a support for mental health. So we learn about opportunities.
As well. Guaranteed if you sign up for a program, we have 50 jobs right now. We have someone within our team going out to all the care homes, all the dentists, lining up people, come in, need interviews. If you don't pass and so funding.
And are they both part?
We can do full-time. Send them our details and don't tell them. At least I will work with them, be good. So.
Do you also help with people who want to do, let's say, work placement in case they are doing in health and social care?
Yes, and even if you don't have any previous qualifications, so some people have dropped out of school for whatever reason, and they might have any in GCSE, but we can set them up in functional skills like English and maths, which are the basic skills that we need to work in health and social care. So as long as you have that qualification, we can help you into progressing whatever you want to do, and we do have work placements as well. We can find placements if you want to go and get some experience in accounts, we can get you experience in accounts. If you want to go in industry, we can do that too. And if you want to progress in becoming a nurse, then we can kind of help you. We can say these are the right results, sort of like kind of guiding you through the way.
It sounds like you've got a few customers already lined up.
Yeah, and I just want to stress before we go as well, while we're here to promote the health and social care program, we do a lot of other stuff with our company as well. So if you don't want to work within health and social care, but you're interested in something else, speak to us still, we'll send it to the rest of our team.
Yeah. Hi, so I am from the job centre, and I'm really pleased to see you guys. And he's quite right, we are restricted. We get our 10 minutes in the job centre. We know that's rubbish. My job, I'm what's called the partnership manager. I actually work with guys like these. Like I say, I'm amazed actually, I've never met you guys, but even so, I work with all your colleagues, and I've worked with LLC for years. Everything you said there is absolutely spot on. It is as good as it sounds. We have, in the job centre, all these offers into various different industries with guaranteed interviews at the end. 6 jobs for applicant. Think about that. I did that the way around. That's 6 applicants per job. 6 jobs per person. That's how desperate people are recruited at the moment. The health and social care industry is probably the biggest, and we can't fill it. We're on a mission, aren't we? All of us. Local authorities, everyone. We're on a mission because there are too many people living a long time. The great thing about that is jobs to look after them. So to ask about other things that I'm here to talk about, because actually I'm the benefits guy, by the way. Benefits is what I do. I'm afraid I can't stand out there and answer questions. That's just me. What I do is bring in all the training and all the opportunities. So we have, for example, you with your window cleaning, interestingly, currently out of work. Interested in HGV driving?
Not really.
Oh, that's a shame. We're free. You can do it for 2,000. And we got HGV about 80,000. For Christmas, about all knowing that there's a lot of office coming up. We loads and loads of opportunities. We people who come to the job centre and say, I'm working out. We want to do. The shops are going out, so again, just really a chance to do your CV. We'll people who can sort out your CVs, or even perhaps if you don't use the job centre about it, you can actually walk into shops with a CV. Good is where I will say to you, the shops are sat in the down the you even got, and that's how when the lady mentioned earlier, rang them for never space the town centre. We said 38 a famous thing doing. So we just wanted to encourage, if you're out, people who are out, have a look. Actually, this is the one thing that's over there. They're just not rubbish jobs. And I get a lot of that. There was a calculator, and I know you benefits you or whatever. The count. There's one called Turn 2, where you can, if I'm on and what happens to get a job or to take that, have a what it will do, or indeed citizens of I think also work that out. But we can say there is a great website that will do that. Likewise, you sit with you and calculate you can go to work. Whether you can go to work, it is a myth. It's that 16-hour walk from the old benefit system. We've got lots of walks that lots of different jobs with training. I could stand there all blooming night, couldn't I, really? So I'm not going.
Briefly, two more salvation. And
I'm with Michael.
are you Michael?
Yeah, I'm with Michael from Craig.
Are you with Michael?
Yeah.
Cool, brilliant. And Amy briefly wanted to talk about climate break.
Yes, one thing.
Go for it.
I think, just quickly. So at the moment, the PNA, so the Mayor's Office, is offering between £5,000 and £25,000 for residents to upgrade the energy efficiency of their home. I'll stay outside to just read it and you can speak to me about it if you're interested, or you just go to the kind of possibly a good option if you're in a really sort of home that's got AC and you have ability that, and then you know that was Merton two in further November might be broken. It would be any place work out and repair that. It's about do let them know.
First thing, slightly different. People in the area for hosting us.